The mysterious routine. In the fast-moving year of 2025, Ethan Cole lived in a crowded city where everyone worked hard but still felt broke. Every morning, he followed the same routine. Wake up, rush to work, eat the same cheap breakfast, and come back home tired with an empty wallet. He often wondered, where does all my money go? Bills kept coming, but savings never stayed. One night, while scrolling through his phone, Ethan found a strange post on a private finance forum. The post had no author, no profile picture, just a title that read, "The Millionaire Budget Plan. Only few know this." Underneath were a few cryptic notes, numbers, and short lines that made no sense. But something about it felt real, almost like a hidden message meant for him. He saved the post and decided to follow its first step the next morning. That night, he couldn't sleep. His mind kept repeating those strange words. Who wrote this? Why was it hidden? And what if it actually worked? Ethan didn't know yet, but that simple click had already changed his future. The first rule. The next morning, Ethan sat at his small kitchen table with a notebook, a pen, and a cup of cheap coffee that tasted more like habit than comfort. He opened the screenshot of the mysterious post again. The first line read in bold letters, "Track every dollar, not every desire." At first it seemed simple. Just watch where your money goes. But as Ethan began writing down his daily expenses, he realized how blind he had been to his own habits. Every small coffee, every random snack, every online purchase he couldn't even remember making, added up to something much larger. By the end of the day, the list on his notebook felt endless. It wasn't the big purchases that hurt him. It was the small ones he never thought about. For the first time, he felt a strange sense of control. The act of writing gave him power over his spending. But what caught his attention most were the faint numbers written at the bottom of the post. Rule 2 unlocks only after 7 days of discipline. It was odd, almost like a challenge or a test. He decided to commit fully. For the next week, he tracked every single dollar he spent. By the 7th day, Ethan was shocked. His wallet wasn't empty, his stress was lower, and somehow he had saved more than he ever had before without earning anything extra. That night, he stared at the mysterious line again, half smiling and half confused. The plan was working, but it felt deeper than just budgeting. It felt like someone was teaching him how to think differently about money, and maybe about life itself. The code of 70-20-10. A week later, Ethan received an unexpected email with no sender's name, only the subject line, "You are ready for level 2." His hands trembled as he opened it. The message contained just one phrase. The code, 70-20-10. Learn it, live it, never break it. There was no explanation. It looked like some kind of formula, but for what? After searching the web, Ethan found nothing that matched. Then he decided to think it through himself. He took out his notebook and started dividing his income into parts. 70% for daily needs, bills, rent, food. 20% for goals, things that built his future, like education or investment. And the last 10%, growth, something that made him a better person, not just richer. He decided to test it for 1 month. Every day he followed the code strictly, even when friends mocked him for living too seriously. He said no to useless spending and yes to purpose. As days turned into weeks, something incredible happened. His account balance grew faster than ever before. Not because he earned more, but because he was finally in control. The numbers began to tell a story of discipline, not luck. Yet what truly shocked him was what came next. At the end of the month, he received another message, this time with a voice note from a deep, older voice saying, "You've unlocked the second gate, Ethan. Are you ready for the mentor?" His heart froze. How did this person know his name? Who was behind this? He looked out of the window that night as the city lights shimmered below. Somewhere out there, someone was watching his progress, not to control him, but to guide him. Ethan didn't know whether to be afraid or excited, but one thing was certain. The budget plan wasn't just a method. It was a path, and he had already stepped too far to turn back. The hidden mentor Ethan couldn't stop thinking about the voice that spoke his name. It wasn't robotic like an AI or cold like a system message. It carried weight, experience, and authority. The voice introduced itself as Mr. Sterling, a man who claimed to have helped many people before Ethan discover what he called the real wealth code. For several days, Ethan hesitated before responding. Curiosity finally overpowered fear, and he replied with a simple message. I'm ready to learn. Within minutes, a video call invitation appeared. The screen flickered, revealing an older man sitting in a dimly lit study, books behind him, and a faint golden clock ticking on the shelf. His face was calm, but his eyes carried a kind of wisdom Ethan had never seen before. Sterling spoke slowly, choosing his words with precision. He said, "Money moves like energy, Ethan. It doesn't vanish. It transfers. Those who understand where it flows control it. Those who don't lose it forever." Ethan listened silently, trying to absorb every word. Sterling continued, "You've followed the rules of tracking and division. But now comes the hardest part. Discipline of desire." He explained that every impulse, every unnecessary purchase, every distraction was a leak in Ethan's financial vessel. If you don't fix the leaks, no amount of money will ever fill it. Ethan realized the plan wasn't about money alone. It was about mastering self-control. Before ending the call, Mr. Sterling said one last line that sent chills down his spine. When you're ready to sacrifice what you love the most, that's when the plan reveals its real power. That night, Ethan couldn't sleep. The words echoed in his mind. What did sacrifice mean? Was he supposed to give something up? He looked at his reflection in the mirror and whispered, "I think I'm finally starting to understand." The sacrifice test a week later, Ethan received another encrypted message from Mr. Sterling. The title read simply, "The Sacrifice Test, 30 Days of Purity." The instruction was brutally clear: no unnecessary spending, no distractions, no indulgence. For 30 days, Ethan was to buy only what was essential. No coffee runs, no entertainment, no gadgets, no excuses. At first, the rule seemed impossible. But he remembered Sterling's words about fixing the leaks. Determined to see how far he could go, Ethan accepted the challenge. The first few days were difficult. He had to walk past his favorite cafe without buying his usual drink. He skipped online deals and ignored endless shopping notifications. But with each passing day, he felt lighter. Not poorer, but freer. His mornings were calmer, his nights more peaceful, and his focus sharper than ever before. He cooked his own meals, tracked every dollar, and started reading financial books Sterling recommended. Slowly, he began to enjoy the simplicity of his new life. By the end of 30 days, Ethan opened his bank account and stared in disbelief. His savings had grown by over 30%, not because of magic, but because of control. Yet what amazed him more was the sense of peace he felt. It was as if he had broken free from a silent trap that everyone around him was still stuck in. But just as he started feeling proud, a new message appeared. You've passed the test. It's time to learn where this plan truly began. The origin of the plan: the next day, Ethan joined a private virtual meeting that Sterling had arranged. This time, the screen didn't show just one face. It showed five. 5 mentors, each older and wiser, sitting in shadowed rooms, connected through a secure network called the Circle of Balance. Sterling introduced them as the original creators of the plan. He explained that after the financial crash of the early 2020s, when millions lost their savings, a secret group of investors came together. Their goal wasn't to rebuild the world's economy, but to rebuild people's discipline. They spent years studying human spending behavior, emotional triggers, and mental habits that led to financial failure. What they created wasn't just a budget. It was a psychological formula, a way to train the human brain to respect money instead of fearing it. They tested it on themselves, rebuilt their fortunes quietly, and then began teaching it anonymously to those they believed were ready to handle it. Ethan listened, stunned. He realized this wasn't just a financial method. It was a movement, one that existed beneath the surface of the modern digital world. Sterling said, "Most people think saving money is about cutting costs. They're wrong. It's about cutting chaos. You can't save your money until you save your mind." Those words hit Ethan like lightning. The mystery he had been chasing wasn't about wealth anymore. It was about wisdom. The final lesson months passed, and Ethan's transformation became undeniable. He was no longer the man who struggled to survive paycheck to paycheck. He had built a foundation of savings, investments, and most importantly, discipline. One afternoon, Mr. Sterling invited him to meet in person. The meeting took place in a quiet park outside the city. Sterling looked older than Ethan expected but carried the same calm energy. They sat on a bench overlooking the lake as the sun dipped behind the skyline. Sterling smiled and said softly, "You've learned the science of money. Now it's time to understand the soul of it." Ethan frowned slightly, curious. Sterling continued, "True wealth isn't about how much you keep. It's about how much you can grow, not just for yourself, but for others." The plan was never meant to make millionaires. It was meant to create mentors. Ethan understood instantly. His journey wasn't about numbers. It was about changing how people thought about money. That evening, Ethan began writing his own version of the plan, simpler, clearer, and meant for ordinary people who were lost like he once was. He started sharing it online, not as a secret, but as a gift. Slowly, people began to follow and lives started to change. The mysterious budget plan had found a new voice through him. Ethan looked up at the sky, smiled, and whispered, "The circle continues."